And I didn't really think that he could, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I gave him my phone number and forgot about it. About 2 weeks later, I get a call.
Recently, an old diary surfaced on social media, believed to be written by Clint Walker, the legendary Hollywood star of the 1950s. Within the pages of this cryptic diary, Walker exposed shocking secrets that no one could have anticipated. Stars of peace and harmony, individuals admired by millions for decades, had hidden unspeakable secrets. From openly supporting ruthless discriminatory policies to committing violent insults against minority groups right on set, and even worse, being willing to strip away opportunities or even the lives of black actors just because of their skin color. These truths have been concealed for many years, but now we are only beginning to uncover them. So, who exactly are the stars behind these acts? Will they ever be held accountable for what they've done? Or will all of this simply fade into distant memories of the past? On John Wayne, white people are the superior race.
Have them believe they live as well here as they live in any other country over that 199 years.
The diary discovered by Clint Walker while researching old Hollywood stars revealed a shocking secret about John Wayne, the great star of Western films like Stagecoach, 1939, and True Grit, 1969. Wayne was not only known as a strong symbol of righteousness, but he was also a promoter of extremist racial views, something few could have ever imagined. In his diary, Clint Walker not only describes Wayne as a film legend, but also paints a darker side of this star, a side that cannot be ignored. In a 1971 interview with Playboy, Wayne openly expressed his views in a way that stunned all of America. Black people can't do much. But what truly shocked the public was his next statement: white people are the superior race in the world. These were not just irresponsible words, but a reflection of extreme racial ideologies, a perspective that caused much pain to many. However, this is only the tip of the iceberg. In Clint Walker's diary, more troubling details about Wayne are revealed.
I fit that category. So I guess that's why I got started in them.
Have you seen any of the films you made, those early films? Have you seen any of them recently?
I try not to see them.
Along with his public statements, Wayne also actually refused to collaborate with black actors or any film projects involving minority groups. A notable event occurred in 1957 when Hollywood began opening up to black actors, especially in significant roles. Wayne strongly opposed this change, stating, "This will break the traditions and values of America." He refused to work with directors and producers who were inclined to cast black actors in prominent roles, believing it would diminish the value of the film industry. The reason for these views was largely explained by Wayne's belief in Hollywood's tradition and reputation. While his colleagues, such as James Stewart and Henry Fonda, spoke out against these ideas, Wayne stood firm in his conservative stance.
This is my country, and I'm going to do good for it. We'll make the greatest step forward since a pilgrim's foot found Plymouth Rock. Tomorrow, remember, this is my country, and I'm going to do good for it.
He also participated in political campaigns supporting politicians with clear discriminatory views, even backing policies considered brutal, related to restricting the rights of minority groups. These events were not just isolated stories in Wayne's career, but they contributed to a controversial image of him in the public eye. While still a famous star, Wayne's racist statements and actions caused his image to fade in the eyes of the audience, especially after his involvement in political campaigns opposing equal rights for black people. In his diary, Clint Walker did not hesitate to describe Wayne as a great star, but also a man filled with conservative and extremist views, something many would rather not confront. In fact, these views caused a deep wound in American society, a wound that cannot be healed overnight. Clint Walker's diary offers a candid look at a John Wayne the public never knew, a star with dark sides that are hard to accept. 2. Joan Crawford, I can't work with black people. Joan Crawford, the famous Queen of Hollywood, is remembered not only for her acting talent in films like Mildred Pierce, 1945, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1962, but also for her dark reputation surrounding her racist attitudes. The words and actions of Crawford throughout her career sparked ongoing controversies, raising questions about her true character. In the diary discovered by Clint Walker, he openly writes about the racial prejudice Crawford maintained throughout her career. Joan Crawford never accepted working with black actors. She always found ways to avoid them, rejected projects involving minority groups, and even asked directors to change scripts to avoid roles for black people. These actions were not random or careless. They were a clear expression of the racist ideology she displayed through her actions, refusing to create opportunities for black actors. The most shocking event, according to Clint Walker, occurred in 1940 when Hattie McDaniel, the first black actress to win an Oscar, was honored for her role in Gone with the Wind, 1939.
Present the Academy Award for the Best Performance of an Actress in Supporting Roles during 1939.
Although this was a historic victory, Crawford not only ignored it, but also showed open disdain toward McDaniel. She refused to collaborate with McDaniel at post-Oscar events, even publicly stating that she couldn't work with black people. These words not only caused a stir in Hollywood, but also repelled the public. Notably, she also asked directors to change scripts to avoid giving black actors a chance to stand out in films. This was one of the rare moments in Hollywood history when a major star strongly opposed the inclusion of black actors to such an extent. In 1947, while working on Humoresque, Crawford demanded that the director change the script to exclude any black characters, even asking to remove scenes featuring black actors. This was not just a personal incident, but part of the tense relationships between stars and minority groups in the film industry at the time. Crawford's racial discrimination was not only evident in her work, but also shocked the public when she refused to participate in civil rights movements for black people in the 1960s. While stars like Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and many others stood up for equality, Crawford remained silent and even subtly criticized these changes. This highlighted the stark contrast between generations of Hollywood artists. One side fighting for justice, the other maintaining conservative views that kept deep-seated prejudices alive in mainstream culture. With Clint Walker's shocking revelations, one big question remains. Has Hollywood, despite its significant changes, moved past the racial shadows left by people like Joan Crawford? The answer might continue to surprise us. In fact, another Hollywood star, with even more extreme views, entered the stage with a history full of controversies. Let's look at the hidden side of the next person. 3. Charlton Heston, I will never let black people rise above us.
The one exception, up until very recently, like most Americans, I expressed my support of civil rights largely by talking about it at cocktail parties, I'm afraid. But again, like many Americans this summer,
when talking about Charlton Heston, people often remember his epic roles in classic films like Ben-Hur, 1959, or The Ten Commandments, 1956. Heston, one of Hollywood's brightest stars, left a lasting impression on audiences with his inspiring performances. However, few know that behind the glamour, there was a dark side that only came to light when Clint Walker's diary was published, revealing secrets that shocked even Heston's fans. Clint Walker wrote, before changing his views, Heston clearly exhibited racial discrimination in his actions and words. He was not just a star on the screen, but also a man with deeply conservative views. One of the most shocking statements by Heston that Walker recorded in the diary was, I will never let black people rise above us. This was not a casual remark or part of an ordinary conversation. At the time, Heston was a major star, but his words caused a major public shock, making the entire film industry take notice. This statement reflected a deep-seated racial discrimination and demonstrated his stance on equality in American society. One notable event recorded by Clint Walker took place in 1961, when Heston participated in an interview with famous journalist Edward R. Murrow. In this conversation, Heston did not hesitate to express his views on Black people not being able to take the lead in American society. Heston strongly opposed the fair opportunities given to Black people, particularly in Hollywood. "Hollywood is becoming a marketplace of unfair arrangements," he declared, implying that Black people were increasingly being given opportunities in major film projects. These words not only reflected Heston's conservatism, but also highlighted a major issue in the film industry at the time: racial discrimination and the unequal opportunities Black people faced. Beyond his statements, Heston also participated in conservative political organizations such as the American Conservative Union, where racial views and equality were never welcomed. In 1962, Heston joined the campaigns of conservative politicians who strongly opposed basic Black rights. His involvement in these organizations further cemented his stance on racial discrimination.
America is no longer an experiment, it is an accomplishment. Freedom works. You inherited it, and you dare not neglect it, but bequeath it. And if you want to feel the warm breath of freedom on your neck, if you want to...
Although Heston later changed his views and participated in movements supporting Black rights, his past words and actions remain an indelible stain. His story did not end with his words. It was reflected in real actions as well. When he began changing his stance and joined organizations supporting Black rights, those who worked with him could never forget his conservative past. Clint Walker wrote in his diary that while Heston later spoke in favor of civil rights movements, his past still left many questioning his true motives. Even though he changed, the dark marks of his history cannot be ignored, Walker wrote. So, even though Heston tried to change, his racially discriminatory past continued to haunt him until his death. These conservative views were not just a dark part of him, but also reflected a period in American film history when people like Heston tried to maintain a social and political order they believed was right. Next, we will explore another star, whose impressive performances were matched by even more controversial views in Hollywood's history. 4. Bette Davis. Black people don't deserve leading roles.
And told me what to do, and it's very hard for me to find that.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would think I needed that, but I did.
Strong. You wanted a domineering?
She's a contemptible person who always thinks they are inferior to her. Clint Walker wrote this in his diary about Bette Davis, the Queen of Hollywood during the 1930s-1950s. Davis's film career is undeniable, but few know that behind the glory of a great star, she carried with her lifelong racist beliefs. Although Bette Davis was known for her powerful performances in legendary films like All About Eve, 1950, and Jezebel, 1938, she couldn't escape criticism for her conservative views within the film industry. In his diary, Clint Walker didn't hesitate to describe Bette Davis as someone detached from human values when it came to addressing racial discrimination in Hollywood. Davis was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but with her deeply racist views, she tarnished her own image, Walker wrote. This diary paints a different side of Davis that no one in the film industry dared to publicly acknowledge, whether veteran colleagues or critics. In her eyes, Black people were always excluded from deserving opportunities. One notable event recorded by Clint Walker occurred in 1942, when Hollywood was beginning to open up opportunities for Black actors. In a meeting with prominent directors, Davis openly declared, "Black people don't deserve leading roles." These words not only hurt Black actors, but also clearly reflected the prejudice she harbored. She demanded that directors change scripts in some films to eliminate Black roles, arguing no matter how talented they are, they can't bring sophistication to a Hollywood film. This was one of the most shocking statements of her career, and many in the industry were uncomfortable with her attitude. But this story doesn't stop at words. In the film Now Voyager, 1942, Davis requested that the director remove a black supporting character from an important scene. "I don't want to shoot a scene with a black person," she said plainly. "They don't belong in big movies." This wasn't just an isolated incident, but a clear manifestation of a racist ideology that was hard to accept in that era. For Davis, working with black people wasn't just an inconvenience, it was an insult to her reputation in the film industry. When we talk about Bette Davis and her racist views, we can't overlook another star from the 1960s, who also excelled in acting talent but carried views that shocked many. 5. Steve McQueen, "Black people can't be heroes." This statement, made by Steve McQueen in an interview in 1969, caused a storm in the entertainment industry and left many people in Hollywood stunned. When one of Hollywood's biggest stars publicly expressed such an opinion, not only critics but also the public was shocked. What few knew was that despite being hailed as the king of action movies, with legendary roles in Bullitt, 1968, and The Great Escape, 1963, McQueen held deep-seated racist views that dimmed his image in film history when looked at in hindsight. In his diary, Clint Walker recorded some blunt remarks about McQueen. Even though he was Hollywood's top star, McQueen never felt comfortable seeing a black actor take center stage, especially in action films where he was the star. Walker's words were not just empty talk, but a hard truth about one of the biggest stars of the 1960s. In fact, McQueen clearly expressed his discomfort with black people taking prominent roles in the films he was a part of, especially in the central roles that he was known for. One prominent event recorded by Walker was when McQueen refused to collaborate with Sidney Poitier, one of the greatest black actors of the time. Poitier, who broke racial barriers in the film industry, was seen as a symbol of the fight for black rights. However, McQueen had no interest in working with him. "I don't think Poitier fits the image I want to build," McQueen said when asked about collaborating with Poitier on a major film project. "Black people can't be heroes in action movies." These words sparked outrage in the community, as Poitier was an ideal role model for those fighting for equality in cinema. The tension between McQueen and black actors wasn't just a strained relationship in the industry, but also reflected a Hollywood full of racial discrimination, where major stars still protected outdated views. McQueen, once admired as a powerful symbol of Hollywood, refused to accept the changes bringing fair opportunities for minority groups in the film industry. The revelations in Clint Walker's diary help us understand the conflict between McQueen's perfect image on screen and the racist views he held in his personal life. Though McQueen later joined social movements and gradually changed his views on race issues, his past racism could not be hidden. The early years of McQueen's career left a deep mark of racial prejudice that he didn't try to hide. These actions contributed to creating a Hollywood where racial discrimination existed not only in the scripts, but also in the personal relationships of famous stars. When reflecting on Steve McQueen's story, one cannot forget another Hollywood star, someone whose career was great, but who also carried racist views. 6. Olivia de Havilland, "Black people shouldn't be in big films." Gone with the Wind, 1939, a film full of historical significance, not only left a mark with its legendary scenes but also became a symbol of racial discrimination, an aspect that few remember when admiring the film. Olivia de Havilland, the actress famous for her role in this classic, was one of the contributors to the success of Gone with the Wind. However, few knew that behind the image of a great Hollywood star, de Havilland held deeply racist views, which Clint Walker's diary helped expose. In his diary, Clint Walker was very blunt about de Havilland. "She's someone who never changes, always holding on to conservative views on race, even though Hollywood has evolved. She not only ignored the struggles of black people, but also displayed indifference in every action." In fact, even though de Havilland was prominent for her role as Melanie Hamilton in Gone with the Wind, the film where Hattie McDaniel, the first black actress to win an Oscar, also starred, de Havilland never showed support for McDaniel. When McDaniel won the Oscar in 1940, de Havilland responded coldly when asked about the event. McDaniel won the award, but no one can say that this is a groundbreaking moment in film history. These words not only hurt McDaniel, but also reflected a sad reality about de Havilland's racial prejudice. The encounter between de Havilland and McDaniel at the Oscar ceremony wasn't the only event that showed de Havilland's attitude toward black actors.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life.
In the 1960s, when the civil rights movement was gaining strength, de Havilland continued to show indifference toward issues related to black people. She not only refused to join the movements for black rights, but also maintained the view that black people shouldn't be in big films. Once again, Clint Walker criticized her in the diary. She never spoke out in support of black actors. Instead, she maintained her conservative views, never changing even when times changed. De Havilland's public image began to fade once her racist views were exposed. Her story became a testament to a Hollywood that didn't easily change, where even the most illustrious stars like de Havilland could still hold on to racist views. The revelations in Clint Walker's diary not only shed light on her true nature, but also serve as a warning about the persistence of conservative ideologies in American society and the film industry in the early 20th century. Olivia de Havilland's story wasn't the only case in Hollywood. At the same time, another star, famous for her career and greatness, also held equally conservative views. 7. Gary Cooper. This is Hollywood, not a place for black people. Hollywood in the 1930s, 1950s, with all its glamour and stage lights, also concealed deep-seated racist views. Gary Cooper, the film icon of this era, is not only remembered for his heroic roles in westerns like High Noon, 1952, and The Westerner, 1940, but also for his clear and harsh racist ideology. Despite his prominent image as a righteous hero, Cooper never showed any welcome for diversity in the film industry, especially when it came to black actors. This became more apparent in how Cooper treated black people in his films. In High Noon, 1952, the film where Cooper made a lasting impact, black actors were not only excluded from major roles, but were also relegated to very small and demeaning parts. The black actors in this film appeared briefly, with insignificant roles that offered no opportunity to showcase talent or character development. These characters were merely bystanders to the events, contributing nothing of importance to the plot. The absence of black roles in such major films highlighted the deep racial discrimination in Hollywood at that time. This discrimination wasn't just present in the films, but also reflected in Cooper's personal views. Meetings and discussions about collaborating with black actors were always rejected by him, and there were instances where he openly stated, "Hollywood is not a place for black people." His lack of respect for black actors was not only an omission, but a deeply conservative and discriminatory attitude, especially as actors like Sidney Poitier began to take on important roles in the film industry. However, despite strong opposition and criticism from activists and colleagues in the industry, Cooper maintained his image as a resilient hero in the eyes of the public. This demonstrates the power of his fame and influence in society at the time. Although his racism was clearly exposed through his works and statements, Cooper was still celebrated as a hero, showing that Hollywood at that time not only lacked fairness for black people, but also sustained deeply conservative, even extreme views on race. From Gary Cooper's story, we move on to another name, one who also left a strong mark in Hollywood history, but with equal controversy. Let's learn about Burt Lancaster, a star with a distinguished career, but who could not escape the racist, conservative views throughout his life and career. 8. Burt Lancaster. Black people don't deserve leading roles. Hollywood in the 1940s, 1950s, with the grandeur of epic and Western films, was a place where stars like Burt Lancaster shone. However, behind the impressive performances and a distinguished career in films like From Here to Eternity, 1953, and The Train, 1964, Lancaster held deeply racist views, something few people knew. Despite being a beloved star, his perspective on black people in the film industry was very limited, even extreme at times. In many of Lancaster's famous films, black actors were not just excluded from leading roles, but were always pushed into minor roles that lacked character development. In The Killers, 1964, although black actors were involved, their roles were still very limited, often reduced to antagonistic characters or minor, shallow parts. This was a clear example of racial discrimination in the film industry, where black actors had to accept lowly roles with no opportunity to showcase their talent or develop their characters, unlike their white counterparts. One of the notable events in Lancaster's career was when he refused to collaborate with Sidney Poitier, one of the greatest black actors in film history. Poitier, who had made history with his outstanding and groundbreaking performances, still did not receive cooperation from Lancaster. When asked about working with Poitier on a film, Lancaster didn't hesitate to say that he didn't believe Poitier could bring the necessary appeal to mainstream films. These words clearly reflected Lancaster's racial prejudice against black actors, even though Poitier had already proven his exceptional talent. By refusing to collaborate with black actors, Lancaster helped reinforce the system of racial discrimination in Hollywood, where black people were always confined to insignificant roles. These actions not only hurt black actors, but also contributed to maintaining racial barriers within the film industry. Despite his illustrious career, Lancaster's image gradually faded in the eyes of many fans when his racist views were exposed. The story of Burt Lancaster is part of the larger picture of Hollywood, where many great stars of the 1940s, 1950s also carried racist views. Another star, despite having a brilliant career, also couldn't avoid controversy regarding racial discrimination in both his personal life and work. 9. Robert Mitchum. I can't work with people who don't know their place.
The alternative is to push the button, is to kill them all. If they don't learn, kill them. If they won't be peaceful, kill them. That's the alternative.
Robert Mitchum, a major star of the film noir genre, known for his sharp performances in classic films like Out of the Past, 1947, and Cape Fear, 1962, was always admired for his strong acting style and unique charm. However, a darker side of Mitchum was revealed through Clint Walker's diary, an aspect few knew about: his racist views that he maintained throughout his career. In his diary, Clint Walker recorded a notable quote from Mitchum, a statement that still surprises many. "I can't work with people who don't know their place." These words were not just a defiant remark, but a clear indication of the discrimination Mitchum had towards black people. For him, black people not only had no place equal to others in the film industry, but they were also seen as individuals unworthy of taking on significant roles in major films. Mitchum rarely worked with black actors, and when he did, their roles were always limited to secondary parts or characters with no development. In The Night of the Hunter, 1955, one of Mitchum's famous films, although black actors appeared, their roles were insignificant, with no development in the storyline. This was a clear example of black people being excluded from important opportunities, relegated to background roles, never given the chance to showcase their talent or contribute meaningfully to the story. One notable event in the diary is when Mitchum refused to collaborate with prominent black actors like Sidney Poitier. In the 1950s and 1960s, as Poitier was rising as a promising black film star, Mitchum was invited to collaborate on several major projects with Poitier. However, Mitchum refused outright, stating that Poitier is a talented actor, but he can't bring the appeal I need in the films I'm involved in. This statement not only denied Poitier's talent, but also reflected a deep-seated racial prejudice in Mitchum's mindset, showing that he couldn't accept black actors in prominent roles on screen. Mitchum didn't just stop at words. He also engaged in actions that worked against equality for minority groups in the film industry. Industry insiders believed Mitchum was not only a talented actor, but also a staunch conservative, creating an environment where black actors were always excluded from important career opportunities. The revelations in Clint Walker's diary shed light on a Hollywood filled with racial discrimination, a place where black people could never achieve fairness in their work, even though white stars like Mitchum were still honored. Mitchum's views and actions were not unique. His story opens the door to explore another Hollywood star, Audie Murphy, who, despite being celebrated as a war hero, showed little regard for the contributions of black people, both in life and in the film industry. Murphy's story will continue to shock us as we learn that a man celebrated as a war hero held deep racist views. Let's dive deeper into Murphy's shocking actions in the next section. 10. Audie Murphy, Black People Can't Be War Heroes. Audie Murphy, the famous war hero known for his exploits during World War II, is regarded as one of the greatest heroes in American military history. With over 30 medals and military awards, Murphy became a symbol of courage and sacrifice. After the war, he became a movie star, particularly in war films, the most famous of which is To Hell and Back, 1955, a film about his own life. However, behind that glory lies a darker aspect few knew about, his deeply racist views, which he expressed both in his personal life and in his film career. Despite being a war hero, revelations in Clint Walker's diary show that Murphy never participated in movements fighting for black rights, something that greatly surprised and disappointed those who admired him. While he was praised for his battlefield achievements in the film industry, Murphy showed an extremely conservative and discriminatory attitude. One of the most controversial aspects was how he treated black actors in his war films. In the films he participated in, black actors were almost always confined to secondary roles and were never given heroic parts, a role Murphy always took on in stories about war. A 1957 interview with The Hollywood Reporter was one of the events that caused a stir when Murphy declared, "Black people can't be war heroes. They don't deserve to be seen as those who stand up for the country." This statement by Murphy not only denied the enormous contributions of black soldiers in the war, but also exposed his deep-seated racial prejudice. These words were like a knife cutting through the sacrifices of thousands of black soldiers in World War II, who fought and sacrificed just as much as their white counterparts. While black people were increasingly striving to gain rights and recognition, Murphy declared they didn't have the ability or right to become heroes. Beyond these shocking statements, the war films Murphy appeared in clearly illustrated his racist views. The black characters, if they appeared at all, were typically given minor, silent roles with no opportunity to demonstrate any strength or importance in the story. They were never cast in leadership roles, but were presented as servants, mere shadows serving as a backdrop to the main characters. This not only reflected a Hollywood full of racial discrimination, but also highlighted the injustice towards black people, who made significant contributions to the war and the development of American culture. It was Murphy's career choices and his conservative views that made him a complex figure in the eyes of the public. Although he was honored as a war hero and received praise for his courage, His racist views caused his image to become muddied and contradictory. The revelations in Clint Walker's diary show a darker side of the hero, a man who not only lacked respect for the contributions of black people in the war, but also helped maintain prejudice and racial discrimination in society and the film industry. The stories of these Hollywood stars are not just about the dazzling performances on screen, but also about the darker, surprising sides. The racist views of icons like Robert Mitchum, Audie Murphy, and many others contributed to a Hollywood that was not only known for its cinematic achievements, but also as an industry riddled with discrimination. These truths, though hard to hear, are an important part of understanding Hollywood's past and the changes it has gone through. If you find this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more exciting videos. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know what you think about the revelations in today's video. Don't miss the next video, as we'll continue to bring more fascinating stories that you can't miss. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.